Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Billsology. I'm your host, A. Rich, Akeem Richens. And if you don't know me by now, please get to know me. This is Built in Buffalo. How is everybody doing on this Saturday night? I hope everybody had a pleasant day in week 2 of the preseason. Football is finally underway. We're finally about to kick the tires off what was a shorter NFL offseason than most years, right? The Buffalo Bills, we made the AFC title game, and even though it felt long because we are excited as fans to see football and see our team win, it was actually a shorter offseason than we are usually accustomed to as Buffalo Bills fans. Am I right or am I right? How is everybody doing today? Let me shout some people out. It's been a couple weeks since I've been on. I'm having a fantastic day. The Buffalo Bills just beat the Chicago Bears 41-15, and I understand it's preseason, right? We get that it's preseason. We get that the games don't count. We get that the real season starts on September 12th. But it feels damn good to have a performance like we had in the Buffalo Bills offensive and defensive performance today, right? It was an impressive sight to see if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, preseason or not. There is a lot of things, positive things we can take from this game. And John Morrow, what's going on, my boy John? Nice seeing you here. I got my brother Dave in here. The other Dave is in the building today. I got Vlad. What's going on, Vlad? I hope everybody's doing well. I got my girl Kim in the building. What a game today, right, Kim? What impressive performance by the Buffalo Bills. And we didn't even have the full roster on display, right? We had a lot of starters mixed in with a lot of backups, and that mix, it was a great mix, and it was impressive showing, man. It was impressive showing. Let me shout out some other guys in here. Buffalo fan 716, what's going on? You think Nick McLeod makes the 53? Hey, man, that's an excellent question. Nick McLeod has been impressing throughout training camp, right? And what we want to see is it elevate to preseason games, and Nick McLeod had an interception today. It looks like the hard work in camp, the plays he's making in camp is starting to play off and carry over to preseason games. And I believe he's going to make it interesting for the Buffalo Bills coaching staff, right? There's going to be a lot of tough decisions that the Buffalo Bills coaching staff have to make. This is not the Buffalo Bills of old, right? This Buffalo Bills team is a very deep ball club on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. And with the wizardry of Brandon Beane at GM, Brandon Beane's GM at our disposal, I really believe that he can flip some of these players into late round picks. I seen Brandon Beane get a pick for Russell Bordine. I seen Brandon Beane get a high mid-round pick for Tyrod Taylor. So these players that we have that is making a lot of plays that probably won't make the Buffalo Bills team, I'm pretty sure Brandon Beane is going to look into flipping some of these guys into late round draft picks, man. And it's a great thing to see once you have the depth that the Buffalo Bills have on their ball club, right? Now, I want to talk about, before I get into my 53-man roster projections, because that's the title of the show, right? I want to talk about the game a little bit because it's a lot of interesting nuggets we can take from this game. And I want to start with the first guy, man. This first guy right here, 41-15. We're talking about a guy that didn't get the job done in Chicago for whatever reasons. I'm not sure if it's coaching. I'm not sure if it's his play, but Mitchell Trubisky came out and showed out against his former ball club. And I don't go too crazy into stats and talk about numbers in preseason games, but Mitchell Trubisky was efficient, 20 for 28, 221 yards, and a touchdown. He looked mobile. He looked like some instances he was looking a lot like Josh Allen, right? Mitchell Trubisky escaping the pocket, spin move, rolling out to his left, making throws, making passes. This is the Mitchell Trubisky we thought we was getting when we signed him, right? We understand that Mitchell Trubisky didn't work out with the Chicago Bears. We understand that Chicago Bears fans was upset with the play from Mitchell Trubisky. But I'm starting to wonder how much coaching is involved in this equation. I know Matt Nagy is looked at as, or was looked at before coming to the Bears, as one of the quality offensive minds in this NFL. But Mitchell Trubisky looked a lot better in his sample size of a performance with the Buffalo Bills than he did with the Chicago Bears a lot of times last year, right? Mitchell Trubisky looked like an outstanding quarterback today. He showed pocket awareness. He showed poise. He showed the presence necessary needed to lead an offensive unit. And Mitchell Trubisky was a very, very complete quarterback in this game today. And I have to salute him, and I have to salute Brian Daboll, right? Brian moved the ball. We see firsthand that coaching matters. This is the reason why we elected to try to upgrade the backup quarterback position, right? God forbid Josh Allen goes down. We are now ultra comfortable and ultra confident in the skill level of our backup quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky, and he played a phenomenal game today. And we're talking about him playing a phenomenal game with not all the weapons to his disposal, right? Stephon Diggs wasn't out there. Cole Beasley wasn't out there. We didn't have all the guys. But being that the Buffalo Bills are such a deep ball club, we got to see a lot of the talent on display from the offensive side of the ball. And the Buffalo Bills had 28 points with 8 minutes left in the second quarter, with Gabriel Davis and Kumerow and Mckenzie at the skill positions. Now, gotta salute Mitchell Trubisky. If I'm the rest of the league, if I'm the rest of the NFL, let me know what y'all think. If I'm the rest of the NFL and I need a quarterback, I'm calling the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills, Mitchell Trubisky just put out a masterful performance that should entice NFL ball clubs to pick up the phone and call the Buffalo Bills and check on the availability of Mitchell Trubisky. He played that damn well today. Let me get some thoughts. McLeod was a beast today. FGH, what an amazing beatdown by the Bills. The Bears didn't know what hit them. Most definitely. Lone Wolf says my audio is ahead of my video. I apologize. I really apologize. Hurricane Henry is in the horizons, right? I'm up north, and Hurricane Henry, we are in the eye of the storm, and it's raining a little bit now. So I do apologize if I do have some Wi-Fi connection issues or if some things are slower than others. I do apologize. Getting some more comments. Brent, what's going on, Brent? Welcome back. I appreciate it, man. I really do appreciate it. Mitchell Trubisky played a hell of a game, right? It was a hell of a performance by Mitchell Trubisky. But Mitchell Trubisky, he had a lot of help. Trade Mitch for a right guard. Dwayne Farr saying, hey, I know one thing's for sure. Mitchell Trubisky's price went up. I don't think the Buffalo Bills should trade him, but if the Buffalo Bills was getting calls, if they are fielding calls after this game about a Mitchell Trubisky, the price has indeed gone up. He played a spectacular performance today in week 2 of the preseason, and this is what we want to see if we're Buffalo Bills fans, right? This is what we want to see if you're a part of the coaching staff of the Buffalo Bills. A big return on your investment. And Mitchell Trubisky had a hell of a game today. Daniel Gari says it was a hell of a game overall for the Bills. Impressive performance. Very impressive performance, man. Very impressive performance. And I'm glad we was able to see this type of performance, preseason or not. Everybody has the Buffalo Bills as a Super Bowl contender, a Super Bowl favorite. It's good to see our team come out and dominate an opponent in the fashion that we dominated our opponent. It was a very, very good thing to see. Other things that was impressive in this week 2 performance, right? I have to talk about other guys. I know this guy, Isaiah Mckenzie, muffed the punt. And as soon as Isaiah Mckenzie muffed the punt, Twitter went crazy, right? Bring back Andre Roberts. Sign back Andre Roberts. Get this guy Mckenzie out of here. But I had to say, you know what? Slow down. Let's relax. Andre Roberts himself fumbled 3 times last year. So let's see if we could get the kinks out in the preseason with Isaiah Mckenzie. But this man, Mckenzie, we used to talk about as a gadget player, right? Isaiah Mckenzie, the gadget player. Isaiah Mckenzie, the sweep king, the reverse king. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Isaiah Mckenzie is now a legitimate threat from the wide receiver position. Isaiah Mckenzie can now come in and play wide receiver, play the slot receiver position, and not miss the beat offensively for the Buffalo Bills. Isaiah Mckenzie has turned himself into an all-around, complete hell of a football player, man. And his versatility is starting to show, whether it's punt returns, kick returns, or wide receiver position. Isaiah Mckenzie is showing that he adds a important dimension to the Buffalo Bills offense, and he is no longer a gadget player, ladies and gentlemen. I think it is time to remove the gadget player tag from Isaiah Mckenzie and give this man his just due as a complete wide receiver. This guy is an incredible football player, and he's showing his worth today. I really like what I'm seeing from Isaiah Mckenzie. I have to salute his work ethic, and we have to give a lot of credit to the Buffalo Bills and the Buffalo Bills staff, right? Because what is an integral part of the Buffalo Bills' success? It's development, right? It's progression, right? And Isaiah Mckenzie was allowed to do something. The Buffalo Bills allow their players to do something that a lot of NFL players, that a lot of sports players don't get a chance to do today because of the impatience of fans or organizations or ownership, right? And that's develop. That's develop. The Buffalo Bills, we give our guys a legit chance to develop and progress, and we're starting to see the fruits and labors of the development of these players. And Isaiah Mckenzie is just another guy that fits that development and progression process. And we have to salute Brandon Beane. We have to salute Sean McDermott for allowing our players to develop, because that is what matters most in the NFL, right? That is what matters most in all the sports. We've gotten away from the developmental process in all the sports because of the impatience around us human beings. Let's just call a spade, right? We have gotten impatient. We don't want to see development. We want to see success right now. We want to see success right away. Salute to Isaiah Mckenzie. Salute to the Buffalo Bills staff and their organization for allowing their players to develop and therefore progress. And we are seeing that with Isaiah Mckenzie. What's your thoughts on Mckenzie? What's your thoughts on the development of Isaiah Mckenzie, the player, ever since he came over from the Buffalo Bills 4 years ago, right? We're talking about a man that is now solidifying himself as a legit receiver in this NFL. And I think Isaiah Mckenzie can do a lot of good things this year with the Buffalo Bills. I want to get some thoughts. Let me go back up here. The comments are flying. Once again, A. Rich, Akeem Richens, you're in tune with Billsology. Shout out my brother DM3. He's in his moving process. He will be back sooner than later. Have to shout out the GOAT. But we are in tune today talking about the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to get into my 53-man roster projections. But I feel it's necessary to give away some flowers and talk about some guys that's doing well and that's excelling as with our Buffalo Bills. And Mitchell Trubisky and Isaiah McKenzie was two of them guys that definitely excelled today. Chris, the Bears are paying more for Dalton than we are for Trubisky. Isn't that some shit? This is an excellent comment. Isn't that some shit? The Bears are paying more for Dalton than we are for Trubisky. And Mitchell Trubisky is a better quarterback than Andy Dalton at this point of their careers. So not only are we paying less for a better quarterback, he is also in a better coaching situation. Brian Move the Ball is a better offensive guru than Matt Nagy, and it's showing. It's showing today, right? Mitchell Trubisky was the best quarterback on the football field today, and it wasn't even close. It wasn't close. Dwayne says, King, Mckenzie has to stop fumbling kickoff and punt returns. Of course, I agree with that 100%, right? He has to stop muffing punts. He has to stop muffing the ball. I was concerned coming into this season about Isaiah McKenzie getting more opportunities. I know we haven't seen him fumble in quite some time, but he's getting limited snaps. What is he going to do now that he's getting more opportunities? And yes, he muffed the punt. We don't want to see that. But honestly, I really like what I'm seeing from Isaiah McKenzie overall as a player. And I won't give him a pass, but that is definitely something that he has to work on. And I'd rather him do it now. Don't get me wrong. I don't want him fumbling the ball or putting the ball on the ground at all, right? But if he's going to do it, I'd rather him do it when the games doesn't count. Rectify and correct your mistakes, and hopefully we don't have the same problem heading into the season. My boy Spin, Dalton's time was last year and he blew it. He fell into a perfect situation to rejuvenate his career, had talent at every skill position and a decent line, and he blew it. But again, we don't know. We understand what Dalton is. We know what Dalton is as a quarterback, and we know that he may not be that guy that he was in Cincinnati when he had a couple of 4,000-yard passing seasons. But I'm looking at the coaching now, right? I looked at Andy Dalton last year with the Dallas Cowboys. I looked at Andy Dalton this year with the Chicago Bears. I looked at Mitchell Trubisky last year with the Chicago Bears. I'm looking at Trubisky this year with the Buffalo Bills. Now, it's a small sample size, but Mitchell Trubisky looks really comfortable in the Brian Daboll offense. So coaching has a lot to do with these quarterbacks' success. As much as we think about the quarterback and these players as individuals, we have to take note and take the account into the coaching staffs, into the coaches that's trying to develop these players and how much they have to do with their success or their failures. And Nagy is a guy, Mitchell Trubisky struggled with the Bears. Andy Dalton didn't look great today. And I got to call a spade a spade. I know he's a rookie. I know the hype is warranted for Justin Fields, but I didn't see anything crazy from Justin Fields either. I didn't think Justin Fields wanted to go back out in the field when the Buffalo Bills fumbled the ball late in the game. I don't think Justin Fields wanted no part of that field after he got laid out by Andre Smith, which was, in my opinion, a clean hit, by the way. A clean hit. It wasn't a dirty hit. This is football. This is a grown man's game. It's a grown man's sport. Excellent hit from Andre Smith. And we could talk about Justin Fields a little later for those that want to get into other quarterbacks around the league. I want to move on. I see the comments are pouring in. I want to move on before we start getting into other players and talk about other guys that excelled, or I liked what I seen from them in this game. And I've been given a lot of shit. I think all of us been given a lot of shit to the run game, right? The Buffalo Bills, we've been trying to put an extra emphasis on the run game. We don't want to run the ball more, but we want to run the ball more efficiently, right? We want to be more successful in our rushing attempts. And Devin Motor Singletary looks like a brand new individual, right? Devin Motor Singletary, we looked at him this offseason. He looked like he bulked up. We saw the pictures before training camp started. Then training camp started. He looked more shifty. He looked quicker. He looked more explosive. And it is definitely translating from OTAs and mini camp and training camp right into the preseason. Devin Singletary. And don't get me wrong, I'm a Zach Moss guy. I believe Zach Moss played well today in his first game coming back from that injury. He was decisive. He was powerful in his runs, and he did well. But Motor Singletary is taking the reins as the number one running back for the Buffalo Bills, and he looks damn good doing it. Devin Motor Singletary is making guys miss in the phone booth, and this is something that we wanted to see. We wanted to see improvements in the running game, right? We wanted to see an improvement from our running backs, and we heard our running backs talking in this offseason. They heard the noise. They heard the talking. They heard the negative chatter with the running back room being a possible liability on the offense, and they wanted to come out and show and prove that they, in fact, can get the job done when necessary. And Zach Moss and especially Devin Singletary is doing an excellent job running the football and being efficient with the football with their chances that they get in. And I have to salute him. I have to appreciate what he's doing and how he's doing his job. Devin Motor Singletary is indeed looking like running back one for the Buffalo Bills. Shout out Justice. Shout out DM3, who's been coaching up, who's been talking up Devin Motor Singletary all offseason long. And we are finally starting to see why, right? Devin Singletary looks like a complete back for the Buffalo Bills, and it is a delightful thing to see. Let me get some comments on Devin Singletary before we start getting into other positions and other players, right? Yeah, I like this comment. We can agree to disagree on Ford. Dwayne, so far, he seems to be okay, but we'll see when the games count. We can discuss Cody Ford a little bit in a minute. We definitely discuss Cody Ford in a minute. Any thoughts about Devin Singletary, man? Devin Singletary has played well throughout these first two games. Jeff Davis, the helmet came off because he didn't have his straps on the bottom of both sides and the chin strap tight. I seen that as well. He had a welcome to the NFL moment, right? We gave Justin Fields a welcome to the NFL moment with that hit. And after that hit, give him credit. He still stayed in the pocket and made some throws and made some plays. But after that hit, we definitely caught the attention of Justin Fields. Spin says, Devin looks solid. His spot as as the primary back to start the season. Most definitely, man. Most definitely Devin Singletary. He looked like he's taking the reins as that number one running back. He's looked elusive. He's looked explosive. He's looked like that third round pick that we seen coming out of Florida Atlantic. That guy that we gave some LaShawn McCoy comparisons to, right? In Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary has some LaShawn McCoy in him. Probably not as fast, but he has the quickness and he has the shiftiness and he has the moves. And we're starting to see that slowly but surely with Devin Singletary. And I can't wait till the season arrives so we can see that on full display. Chris says, Motor looks strong running. Still want to see him catch some passes. Yes, most definitely. Still want to see him catch some passes. It was good to see Matt Breida catch that one reception today. That one reception's 18 yards. I think some people are like, not as impressed with Matt Breida thus far, but Matt Breida is not an in-between the tackles running back, right? Matt Breida is a running back that is explosive in space. Give Matt Breida the ball in space and let him work. Watch him work. And we gave him an opportunity with the ball in space today, and he made the most of his opportunity. So I really like what I saw from the entire running game, right? Look at Reggie Gilliam. Reggie Gilliam is a guy that I didn't have making this roster. Now, after today's game, is like, how the hell are we going to leave Reggie Gilliam off this roster? This guy is versatile, where he can line up at tight end. He can line up at fullback. He's very good on special teams. I think he had a hand in the block punt today or the block field goal. Reggie Gilliam may be a lot to make this roster. And the Buffalo Bills, once again, is going to have some tough decisions to make when it comes down to finalizing this 53-man roster, because I really liked what Reggie Gilliam brings to the Buffalo Bills offense. He brings a tenacity, right? He brings a physicality to that Buffalo Bills offense. The Buffalo Bills look like a more physical football team than we've ever looked. We look as physical as we've ever looked. You've seen what Carlos Basham looked like today. We've seen Gregory Rousseau run over guys. We've seen AJ Epinessa run over guys. We've seen guys like Spencer Brown hold his own against Khalil Mack. The Buffalo Bills are a more physical football team than they've been in the last 4 years. And it's shown. It's shown today. Let me get some more comments, man. Comments are flying in. We have a lot of people tuned in. I appreciate everybody's tuned in. Dale Thomas, do you think Allen is going to play at all next week to knock the rust off, or is it just going to be third string tryouts? Now, Dale, this is an excellent question. In my opinion, I'm not playing Josh Allen. I don't have to see anything from Josh Allen. I watched Josh Allen last year with no OTAs, no mini camp, no training camp, no preseason last year, and he had the best season in Buffalo Bills history from a quarterback. And that's during a pandemic. So because of that, I'm not playing Josh Allen. Josh Allen is already getting more this year than he got all of last year. At least he's getting OTAs, right? At least he's getting training camp, right? At least he's getting to practice every day, right? So Josh Allen is already getting more than what he got all of last year. I'm not playing him in any preseason game. That's an excellent question, Dale Thomas. Before I get into these comments, because these comments are flying off the wall, I want to get into my next guy that I want to discuss, right? I want to get into guys, and of course, we can get into more guys where we see fit, or if y'all want to discuss any guys or bring up guys that I'm not discussing, by all means. But I have to give this man some just due. Now, I know Spencer Brown has a long way to go. I know he's a third-round pick, and he come out of school, a small school where the competition is minimal. He's not facing a lot of NFL guys. He's not going up against a lot of stiff competition. But today, against Khalil Mack, Spencer Brown held his own. He held his own in the pass game. He held his own in the run game before going down. And I hope to pray to God that Spencer Brown is not seriously hurt, right? Because he held his own today. Again, he has a long way to go, but I really like what I saw in Spencer Brown. He looked good in space. We've seen that athletic ability on full display. He looked very good from that right side, right? We've seen him play both left side and right side. He looked particularly better on that right side. He looked explosive. He looked violent coming out of his stance. Ladies and gentlemen, Spencer Brown, we may have something with this kid. And now it's going to make certain things interesting in the future with Daryl Williams and our offensive line. Because if Spencer Brown is playing like this already and he continues to develop and progress, that would make Daryl Williams expendable sooner rather than later. Right now, I believe that, of course, we have a long way to go, but we love the progression that we've seen thus far from Spencer Brown, man. I want to get y'all thoughts on this third-round pick. He moved good in space. We saw the RAS score We saw that rash score when Spencer Brown got drafted by the Buffalo Bills. He is the most athletic offensive lineman ever at the position, right? The most athletic offensive lineman ever at the position. That is something that can't be taught. That is something that you can't teach. The other things that Spencer Brown has to deal with and learn, we can teach, we can develop, we can install that in Spencer Brown's game. And I really like what I saw for him today. I want to get y'all thoughts on Spencer Brown. We seen Bobby Hart in action, right? We seen Bobby Hart. We know he wasn't the guy. We seen early that Bobby Hart wasn't the guy, and we was concerned about that swing tackle position. I think we could be a little bit at ease. Of course, we want to see the severity of Spencer Brown injury, but I think we could be a little bit at ease at the swing tackle position. We got an uber athletic guy that's going to continue to progress, and I really like what I saw from Spencer Brown. I like what I saw from all of our rookies today. I like what I saw from all of our rookies. We was skeptic on the Buffalo Bills draft, but these guys are coming out and playing physical style, a physical brand of football, and they all been impressive in their small sample sizes. Spencer Brown, man, what's y'all thoughts on Spencer Brown thus far? Yes, he did get hurt. He hurt his knee. He had to come out. It was unfortunate. It was unfortunate he came out because I wanted to see more Spencer Brown, but he did get hurt. Hopefully it's not too serious, right? Hopefully it's something where when Sean McDermott comes and talks to the media, we can get a prognosis of day to day, right? And he can come back sooner rather than later. Daniel, Brown has looked pretty good so far. Should progression already, but D. Wills is a starting right tackle in 2021. Most definitely the starting right tackle in 2021. Again, the Buffalo Bills believe in developing their players. And when we have a guy like Daryl Williams as our right tackle, an above average tackle in this NFL, it gives guys like Spencer Brown an opportunity to develop. And that's the core of what the Buffalo Bills want to do. That is the foundation of the Buffalo Bills organization, right? That's developing core players. Dawn, I love Spencer. Hope he isn't hurt badly. His holes are coachable. Most definitely. Everything about Spencer Brown is coachable. Everything about Spencer Brown that you can't teach is exactly what you want in your offensive lineman, is exactly what you want in your football player. Chris, little concern if Mckenzie is the kick returner. Hopefully Stevenson wins the job. Hey, man, I really like Marquez Stevenson, and I even tweeted before Stevenson scored a touchdown. I even tweeted, if Marquez Stevenson does something on in the return game, it's going to make things interesting. Marquez Stevenson himself got hurt in today's game. I seen in the scouting reports, I was looking back at the scouting reports on Marquez Stevenson. Durability is an issue for Marquez Stevenson. So if he can fix that durability issue that he has, he dropped the pass today. I believe he's still raw as a receiver, even though he caught that big pass last week. If he can work on that durability, I believe Marquez Stevenson can become a player. The interesting thing is going to be, where would Marquez Stevenson fit? Are we going to add 7 receivers? If we add 7 receivers, who are we going to sacrifice? Who isn't going to make the team? And if Marquez Stevenson is going to make the team, he will be indeed our primary return man. That will be the main reason why he makes the team through the return game. So it's going to be interesting to see. And besides, right now, I think Isaiah Mckenzie right now is a better wide receiver and can become, I think he can add more of a dimension to the Buffalo Bills offense than he can to the return game right now. I think Isaiah Mckenzie became that good as a wide receiver that the return game from him may suffer because of his uptick from the wide receiver position. So these are things that we definitely have to look at. Isaiah Mckenzie, can he manage to play an above average style at wide receiver and manage to excel at the at the return game as well. Those are things that is remain to be seen, and those are decisions that our coaching staff is going to have to make. And one more guy I want to talk about. Of course, we could talk about and going to talk about AJ Epinessa, right? What he did. AJ Epinessa, I didn't see him on the stat sheet, but we see that when he has his weight in control, when he's playing into the weight that he wants to play, AJ Epinessa is a force at the defensive end position for the Buffalo Bills, right? He does an incredible job setting the edge. His get off is very good. His first step is lightning quick. His burst is explosive and violent. And AJ Epinessa, back-to-back weeks, is pressuring the quarterback, getting to the backfield. Did you see what he did to that offensive tackle to the Bears? Straight ran him over in dominating fashion. And that's back-to-back weeks. Our first year and second year defensive ends has been in the backfield disrupting the quarterback. AJ Epinessa and Gregory the Groot Rousseau has looked impressive in this preseason, man. And I have to give them their flowers, but I can't ignore this man either. Carlos Boogie Basham, 5 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, had a couple of sacks. Our defensive ends that we've drafted are showing up during these preseason games. And when you add Gregory Rousseau and Carlos Boogie Basham, and you throw in Daryl Johnson and what he's able to do, and you throw in Efe Obada and the versatility he brings and what he's able to do, and we've seen Ed Oliver playing defensive end on pass rushing situations. Ed Oliver was out there playing defensive end during a pass rushing situation. When you see these things from the Buffalo Bills defensive line, their defensive front, when you see this versatility, it is something that it is very impressive if you want to see the Buffalo Bills and if you're a fan of our Buffalo Bills. Carlos Basham, besides giving up containment to Justin Fields, had a very good day today. And I really like what I'm watching from the Buffalo Bills defensive line, especially our defensive ends, right? I have a hard time. I'm going to have a hard time cutting any defensive end. What defensive end can you cut? I'm not cutting Daryl Johnson. I'm not cutting Efe Obada. I'm not cutting, obviously, Rousseau and Boogie Basham. I like the veteran presence of Mario Addison and Jerry Hughes. Buffalo Bills are in a situation, in my opinion, where they may carry 7 defensive ends on their roster. I don't think all of them would be active on game day, but I don't see how you cut any defensive end on the Buffalo Bills roster. Each one of them bring a different dimension, whether it's on the run defense, whether it's versatility where you could play defensive end or kick them inside, or whether that's playing a very good special teams role. These defensive ends for the Buffalo Bills, all of them produce and all of them can contribute. And I'm liking what I'm seeing from that group. How do y'all feel about the Buffalo Bills front 7? How do you feel about what we've seen thus far from our rookies and our second-year player? Dave says, I told you, Bills fans, you would love Boogie. I really like what I've seen from Boogie. Again, besides giving up containment to Justin Fields, you have to know your opponent, right? Andy Dalton's not in the game anymore. Andy Dalton is a guy that's not going to run and is not going to break the pocket. But when Justin Fields is in the game, we have to know who our opponent, and we have to understand the type of player that's on the field. So once we made them adjustments and Boogie Basham realized he was breaking containment, he settled in and he had a fine game, man. I really like what I seen from Boogie Basham today. John, some were saying Boogie faced second and third guys on Chicago. To me, all reps count. Most definitely, all reps count. It doesn't matter, especially to our rookies, right? Especially when you have rookie guys coming in and trying to learn the speed of the game. I don't give a shit if it's second or third round guys. My guy's a second round rookie. So if he's playing and looking apart against his opponents, that is an impressive feat in my opinion. And I like what I saw from Carlos Basham, no matter who was in front of him. Yo, shout out my brother, Let's Talk Sports. If you are on Twitter and you're not following Let's Talk 716, my brother Robbie, please give my brother Robbie a follow. He is a diehard Buffalo Bills guy. He has his own podcast as well. This is my brother. Please give my bro a follow on Twitter if you are on Twitter. Dawn, I don't have Bam on mine either. I did find a place on the practice squad, but we can protect 4 practice players each week. I don't know. It's going to be interesting, right? It's going to be interesting to see. I'm going to get into my 53-man roster projection in a minute. Let me take a couple more comments. Once again, A. Rich, Akeem Richens, you're in tune into Billsology. If you don't know me by now, get to know me. If you don't know us by now, get to know us. This is Built in Buffalo. My brother DM3 will be back sooner rather than later. Today, I'm discussing our impressive preseason victory against the Chicago Bears, and I will be getting into my 53-man roster projection the second week into the preseason. Let me get some more comments before I do so. Ducks fan says, I hope we keep Kumaro. I think Kumaro is close to a lock to make this roster. Shout out my brother Charlie, man. Shout out my brother Charlie Gross. Charlie Gross be taking a lot of shit on Twitter for his outlandish sometimes and very opinionated comments and statements. But he made a comment the other day saying that Jake Kumaro was a lock to make this roster, right? And I believe it was Kumaro, and I have to agree. I think that it's becoming that close where Kumaro is indeed that 6th receiver. We're talking about a guy that is big and physical, can help out in the run game, can help out in the red zone, a big target for our quarterbacks, and he contributes on special teams. So I really like what Kumaro brings to the table. Buffalo fan says 716. Buffalo band 716. Jake Kumaro is a TD god. He needs to make the roster. Definitely, man. And in that, especially in the red zone, right? We have a couple of guys in that red zone where once we get down there in the opponent's 20, we could be very, very hard to stop, right? We have guys like Touchdown Jesus, Jake Kumaro, who's a red zone threat, a red zone target. We have Josh Allen, who's forever a red zone threat. We have Reggie Gilliam, who is a short yardage red zone threat, right? So we have a lot of guys that can excel in the red zone, get tough yardage, and become red zone targets. So the Buffalo Bills offense, man, is a problem, and it's a good problem to have. Shout out Cindy. Man, no wonder Coach called Stevenson speedy. Hope he is good for the Steelers. And that it's going to be interesting what we do in Marquez Stevenson, right? Because I'll go ahead and give a little hint. I don't have Marquez Stevenson on the roster right now. I don't have him on the 53 right now. I know he looks like he could be our best return guy, but we're going to see what happens in this next game, and we're going to see what the coaching staff does in terms of decisions. I know we could protect certain players on the practice squad. I believe Marquez Stevenson is one of them protected practice squad players as opposed to making the initial 53-man roster. But we definitely going to see my brother DM3 and some guys have a guy like Marquez Stevenson making the roster as a 7th wide receiver. So we definitely will see. Jeff Davis says Tywan Jones became expendable today. I don't know. I always thought Tywan Jones was expendable, right? But what I've noticed with Sean McDermott is he has a loyalty for some guys. And I believe Taiwan Jones is one of those guys he has a certain loyalty for at the moment. I believe Coach MCD believes Taiwan Jones is one of the best gunners in this NFL, and he doesn't need to see anything from Taiwan Jones this preseason. I don't think it matters if Taiwan Jones played this preseason or not. I think he's going to be on this roster, on this team, because Sean McDermott thinks highly of what he can do on special teams. Spin. Stevenson won't clear waivers. I don't think so. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, what we do. Dawn. I didn't have Stevenson on mine either. I had him on the practice squad, but I'm thinking he needs to be on the 53. It's going to be a lot of interesting things that a lot of interesting decisions that the Buffalo Bills have to make. And another guy that impressed me as well in his little performance, he didn't do anything spectacular or anything crazy, but I like what Brandon Powell showed for the Buffalo Bills. I like what Brandon Powell, number 18, the receiver from the Buffalo Bills, I like what he showed. He showed good hands. He caught his targets. He was on kick returns and punt returns. He showed some quickness. He showed some versatility. I know he probably won't make the roster, but this is a guy that showed that he is capable of making some plays. And the Buffalo Bills, in my opinion, we are 7, 8, 9, 10 receivers deep. In my opinion, for the Buffalo Bills, Brandon Beane roster is a deep one. I think that we should be trying to flip some of these guys into late round draft picks, because we have a lot of NFL ready football players on our roster that will not make our roster. Let me go ahead and say that again. We have a lot of NFL ready players on our roster that won't make our roster. So why not? Let's go ahead and see if we can flip some of these guys into late round draft picks. Not many holes on the Buffalo Bills roster. Let me take one more comment, and then I'm going to move into my 53-man projection after week 2 of the preseason. Let me take one more. What's Spin got to say? Spin. His speed, and he's already showed flashes as a return man and as a wide receiver. Teams will take a chance on players with his speed because it's hard to find who has it. And most definitely, Spin, right? Marquez Stevenson flashed last week on 4th down, beating his man on a big play, and he flashed this week as a punt returner. 2 different positions he flashed in back-to-back weeks. Again, we're going to see how significant or the severity of his foot or ankle injury, and it's going to be some tough decisions to be made ahead for the Buffalo Bills coaching staff. So Marquez Stevenson is definitely a guy that's showing that he deserves to be on the roster at least as a punt or a kick returner, right? Cody, do you think the Bills can trade Mckenzie? I think that this is an excellent question, right? Because the Buffalo Bills are very deep at wide receiver. I do think Mckenzie has value. No question. Do I think the Buffalo Bills can get a 5th-round pick for Isaiah McKenzie? No question. Maybe even a 4th. I might be pushing it, but I definitely think the Buffalo Bills can get a 5th round pick for Isaiah McKenzie. But why would I want to trade Isaiah McKenzie? At this point, why would I want to trade him? He's been on the Buffalo Bills. Smash that like button. My brother DM3 says, smash that like button. He's been on the Buffalo Bills for the last 3-4 years developing. Why would we want to trade McKenzie now? This is the best of Isaiah McKenzie. We can't go ahead and make Isaiah McKenzie the best player he ever was just to trade him. So no, I do think he has value, but in my opinion, Isaiah McKenzie has solidified himself as a legitimate threat from the wide receiver position, and I wouldn't trade Isaiah McKenzie. Even if he's not the greatest of punt returners or kick returners, I think he holds tremendous upside as a legitimate wide receiver. And we've seen what happened with the Buffalo receivers last year, right? Stephon Diggs wasn't 100% against the Chiefs with his oblique. We had Cole Beasley in his broken leg. We had Gabriel Davis in his ankle. So we know injuries happen. We are playing in a combative sport. This is the NFL. And also, it's a passing league, right? So Isaiah McKenzie, in my opinion, is not a guy I'm trading off the Buffalo Bills roster, losing a dimension to our offense. Excellent question, though. Very good question. My brother DM3 is definitely in the building. The Bills need as many weapons as possible. And I agree 150%. That's why I believe Stevenson is the 7th receiver on DM3's roster projections. Don't tell nobody I told y'all, but I believe DM3 has Marquez Stevenson as a 7th receiver. DM3, if I'm lying, let me know. If I'm telling the truth, definitely let me know. And I wouldn't argue that, right? Marquez Stevenson is definitely solidifying himself as a dangerous player when he's on the field. But I wanna shift gears. We talked about the performance with the Buffalo Bills, 41-15 over the Chicago Bears. We spoke about certain guys. We're going to get into other guys once we start talking about our 53-man roster projection. I think the Buffalo Bills are a very deep ball club now, right? This is not like a couple of years ago when it was easy to make roster cuts. We knew who was making the team. We knew who was getting cut. We knew who possibly had a chance to make the practice squad. But this year, the Buffalo Bills up and down the roster are 3 deep in many of their positions. 3 good players, many of their positions. Top to bottom, the Buffalo Bills roster is a very good roster that doesn't have many weaknesses. So I want to get into. I didn't make any banners for it, so I'll go through it slow, and then we'll talk about it. Each position group. I want to talk about or get into my 53-man roster after week 2 of the preseason, and I'm going to start with the quarterback position. Obviously, I have 2 quarterbacks making the roster, Josh Allen and Mitchell Trubisky, right? How many of you can agree with that? I don't have a third quarterback making the roster. Davis Webb, Jake Fromm, I believe one of those guys will be practice squad guys. I don't see it necessary this year for the Buffalo Bills to hold 3 quarterbacks on their active 53-man roster. So I have 2 guys in Mitchell Trubisky and Josh Allen. And in my opinion, we have the deepest, the best set of quarterbacks in this NFL, right? Even when you add in a Davis Webb and Jake Fromm. Davis Webb as a 3rd quarterback is not bad. Jake Fromm as a 4th quarterback is not bad at all. The Buffalo Bills quarterback room is the best quarterback room in the NFL. The Buffalo Bills quarterback room is the best quarterback room in the NFL. And Mitchell Trubisky and Josh Allen is the best 1-2 tandem that you can possibly have. And I have those guys leading off and making our 53-man roster. Does anybody oppose to that? Do anybody think that Davis Webb probably deserves a spot or Jake Fromm deserves a spot? Or are you comfortable with Allen and Trubisky, just those 2 quarterbacks making the roster? My brother DM3 says Fromm is practice squad, Webb is gone. They want to develop Fromm. I can see that happening because I can actually see another team picking up Webb and adding them to their active roster. I can actually see that happening, and I can see Jake Fromm developing within our practice squad. So I like the assessment, DM3, and I could definitely see that happening. Buffalo fan 716 says Josh Allen 2021 MVP. I agree. And if you're asking me as a question, yes. Yes, I do feel that Josh Allen has what it takes to be that MVP of this NFL. Look at the team. We've come out firing on all cylinders. We look like we're in mid-season form. We don't have all our players out there, and we look pretty damn impressive. We look pretty damn good on the offensive side of the ball. If we can get better running back play, more efficiency from our running backs when they get the opportunity, Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills offense, the rest of the NFL better look out. But yes, Josh Allen, I definitely have as a MVP candidate, top 3 candidate with Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers in this 2021 season. Daniel Garvey says it will be a battle between Fromm and Webb to the practice spot. Most definitely agree with that. Most definitely agree. Danny says, I agree. Lone Wolf says, thank you, DM3. I've been saying that all along. Gotta love DM3 presence, even if it's in the chat room. Moving on. I think we've solidified that, right? Josh Allen, Mitchell Trubisky, 2 quarterbacks on the active roster. I want to move on to the running backs. I have 4 running backs making this roster. I have Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, Tyron Jones, and Matt Breida, right? Now, a lot of people hasn't been as impressed with Matt Breida. I think Matt Breida is a guy that you have to get the ball in space. He's a guy that you have to get the ball in the open field and let him use his speed and explosiveness to get the best out of Matt Breida us fans want to see. I don't think he's necessarily great between the tackles, right? So if we understand how to correctly use Matt Breida, I think he can show more and do more for the Buffalo Bills. But I definitely have him making this roster. I initially have had the thought process that if we're going to carry 7 receivers, if Marquez Stevenson is in competition for a roster spot, Marquez Stevenson is in competition for a roster spot with Matt Breida, right? That's just how I feel about it, because I always thought that the Buffalo Bills should carry 3 running backs, and I think that the Buffalo Bills organization understands that they should carry 3 running backs, and Matt Breida is in the fold because of that. But the way Marquez Stevenson is looking on special teams, making plays from the wide receiver position, and being a player that's explosive, just like a Matt Breida, is it possible that Stevenson can overtake Matt Breida for a roster spot within the Buffalo Bills? So those are things I'm looking at, and those are camp battles or underlying camp battles that I think is transpiring within Buffalo Bills camp that's probably not even being talked about. I really think Marquez Stevenson is pushing Matt Breida's spot. But right now, I have Matt Breida making the Buffalo Bills 53-man roster, along with Moda, Zach Moss, and Tyron Jones. 4 running backs makes this roster. I want to get y'all thoughts. Do y'all agree or disagree with the 4 running back assessment for our Buffalo Bills? Dawn said, not a chance Stevenson takes over for Breida. I like it. I like it. Smash that like for A Rich. Hey, man, smash that like for me. DM3 said so. If DM3 said so, please do it. Smash that like button. Whether you're on Twitter, give us a share, give us a retweet. If you're on Facebook, smash that like button. If you're on Twitter, definitely shout out my boy DM3 for the shameless plug. Cody, does Reggie make the team? I'm going to get into that, Cody. I'm definitely going to get into that. Puma 29 says, no way 4 running backs. We will see, right? I definitely think we're going to see. I think running back is the position that we have to give Taiwan Jones, but he is there because of his special teams prowess. I know he's listed as a running back, but Taiwan Jones, he should actually be listed. If I'm the Buffalo Bills and I'm on the depth chart, I'm not even listing him as a running back. I'm putting gunner. I'm putting the word gunner, and I'm putting Taiwan Jones' name under the word gunner because that is what the hell he is. He is the gunner for the Buffalo Bills, listed as a running back. So that's why I have him as a running back, and that is why I have 4 running backs making the roster. But again, we all are entitled to our opinions. We all are knowledgeable Buffalo Bills fans, and we are going to see who indeed makes the roster for the Buffalo Bills. But those are the 4 running backs I have. Moving on. Wide receivers. I know Marquez Stevenson is making a case for himself. But as of right now, and we're going to see the severity of his injury because he has a foot ankle injury going on. We're going to see the severity of it. But as of right now, I have the initial 6 that I had months ago for the Buffalo Bills making this roster. Buffalo Bills wide receivers. And that's Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, Emmanuel Sanders, Isaiah McKenzie, Cole Beasley, and Jake Kumerow. I think these 6 are 90% locks. Of course, Jake Kumerow is not a complete lock, but he's damn near close. These 6 receivers for the Buffalo Bills are damn good receivers. And we have guys like Isaiah Hodgins and Marquez Stevenson and Lance Lenoir and Brandon Powell and Tanner Gentry. That's all on the outside looking in. And those receivers that I named, Tanner Gentry, Brandon Powell, Lance Lenoir, Isaiah Hodgins, somebody's going to pick one of these guys up. One of these guys are going to be on active rosters on other NFL ball clubs come week 1. The Buffalo Bills have a very deep and talented wide receiver group, but this is the 6 that I'm going to roll with. How do y'all feel about my initial 6? Do y'all think Buffalo Bills carry 7 receivers? Is there anybody out there that believes the Buffalo Bills will carry 7 wide receivers? Cody agrees with 6. Daniel Garies, my brother Daniel. Wide receivers, Diggs, Sanders, Beasley, McKenzie, Davis, Kumerow. If they keep 6, if they keep 7, add Stevenson or Powell for return duty. Most definitely agree. I love Powell, man. I really like Powell. Hey, I like Lance Lenoir as well. I think this kid Lance Lenoir can play. I believe the Buffalo Bills outdone himself with this wide receiver group. Don says, I think they carry 7, but only due to special teams uses. That is a whole lot of wide receivers, right? That is a whole lot of wide receivers. But again, it is not out the ordinary. Marquez Stevenson is playing his way into the conversation because of his speed and special teams prowess. He's playing his way into the conversation because of his big play capabilities. So 7 receivers, even though we're not accustomed to seeing it, even though we've never seen it before, it is not that far-fetched and that outside of the imagination for the Buffalo Bills to possibly carry 7 receivers. So I'm not mad at Don's assessment whatsoever, but I have us carrying 6. Jordan Reed says, I'll take 7. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it at all. Drill DM3 said, don't forget 17 games. May need a 7th receiver down the road. Excellent comment. Excellent assessment, DM3. That extra game is vital, right? That extra game, you're going to need players that's going to be able to play these games, get through these games, healthy bodies. So a 7th receiver may be the new normal, right? This is the first year the NFL is implementing an extra game to the NFL season. So does an extra game to the NFL season mean that NFL teams around the league is going to start carrying 7 wide receivers? It remains to be seen, but we're going to find out sooner rather than later. Let me get one more comment before I move on. Got to get my bro John in here. I agree. Tyron Neal has to do better. He's been there 3 years now and is okay in special teams. I would see if there's other DBs willing to play special teams, but maybe better than Neal in coverage. Now, I'll take this comment before we move on into our tight ends. I think Tyron Neal played well in coverage. I think he played that 73-yard touchdown. I think he played as well in coverage as he can play. He's inexperienced. We don't line him up at outside cornerback consistently enough for him to get those plays and get those reps at outside corner. And he just didn't get his head around. I don't know if Tyron Neal is a cornerback. I don't know if he's an outside cornerback. I don't know if he's a slot cornerback. I don't know if he's a safety. But right now, it looks as if Tyron Neal's main role is a special teams contributor. Tyron Neal is our new Marcus Easley, right? For the older Buffalo Bills fans, for the Buffalo Bills fans that's been watching the Buffalo Bills for 10 plus years, we know Marcus Easley, the old wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills, who never made a name of himself at the wide receiver position, but was a hell of a special teams player, Marcus Easley. That's the road that Tyron Neal, in my opinion, is starting to go down. He's not excelling necessarily as a defensive player, but he's doing a hell of a job as a special teams player. Tyron Neal is the new Marcus Easley for the Buffalo Bills. Let me see if I can find this super chat. Super chats get priority. My boy Eric, appreciate the super chat, Eric. Eric Austin Phelps, go Bills. You gave $5 to say go Bills. I really appreciate you, buddy. If you got a question, you don't even need to put a super chat up here. If you got a question, Eric, best believe I would definitely put it up here and assess it. Don Keefe says, I love Tyron Neal, but I sent him to the practice squad. Interesting developments. Let's move on, right? I'll take some more questions in a bit. I just talked about receiving core. I have 6 receivers making the Buffalo Bills 53-man roster. Let's get into the tight ends. I have 3 tight ends making the Buffalo Bills roster. I have tight end 1, Jacob Hollister. Yes, I said it. Yes, I am going there. I have tight end 1, Jacob Hollister, making the roster. Jacob Hollister deserves, in my opinion, I don't want to say deserves, right? But Jacob Hollister, in my opinion, has to take a look-see. We have to take a look-see at Jacob Hollister with Josh Allen running with the ones, because he's making all the plays necessary. He looked like he's nimble enough to create plays out in space. He's using soft hands. He's making all his plays and taking advantage of all his opportunities. In my opinion, Jacob Hollister is working himself into the tight end 1 discussion for the Buffalo Bills. If Dawson Knox is still going to have those consistency issues where he's not going to catch the ball on a regular basis, where he's not going to catch the easy balls, right? If we're still seeing those inconsistencies from Dawson Knox, we have to give the guy that's making more plays an opportunity to step up with the ones to see if he can be the guy that can consistently make plays. And Jacob Hollister is showing that he could possibly be that guy if Dawson Knox is still fucking around and dropping footballs, right? So Jacob Hollister I have as tight end number 1 for the Buffalo Bills. The number 2 tight end I have is Dawson Knox. Now, don't get me wrong. There was a play Jacob Hollister made, and he tried to hurdle the defender, and he wasn't successful. Dawson Knox would have hurdled that defender. Dawson Knox is a uber ultra athletic tight end, and his athletic abilities is a strength to the Buffalo Bills offense when he can indeed catch the ball. But right now, I do have him as a lock. Obviously, he's making the team, but he's the number 2 tight end in my opinion. I want to get your thoughts on how I feel about the tight ends and Jacob Hollister, in my opinion, being tight end 1. But right now, Hollister, Dawson Knox, and my tight end number 3 is Reggie Gilliam. Yes, Reggie Gilliam, in my opinion, showed that he deserves to be on this Buffalo Bills roster. He has the versatility to play and line up at tight end. And I think that is where he could stick and make the roster. I like Tommy Sweeney, but Tommy Sweeney, he has a lot of different elements and issues going on, right? Last year, he had the fight with COVID where he wasn't healthy and we had to shut him down. This year, he's in the walking booth, Tommy Sweeney. So I don't think, as much as I like him when he's available and on the field, there is too much durability concerns and durability issues with Tommy Sweeney for him to warrant a spot on a 53-man roster. So I got him as part of our practice squad unit and Reggie Gilliam as the 3rd tight end on the roster. He can line up at tight end. He's versatile enough to line up at tailback, to line up at fullback. He's a very good core special teams contributor. Reggie Gilliam makes this Buffalo Bills team, makes this Buffalo Bills roster as a tight end, and we're going to line him up all over the place. So 3 tight ends I have making the roster is Jacob Hollister, Dawson Knox, and Reggie Gilliam. What are your thoughts about me putting Reggie Gilliam at tight end? I'm like, the way he's impressing, and we have kind of a log jam at the running back position already, and we're kind of light at the tight end position. That is where the roster spot is fulfilled for Reggie Gilliam. It has to be, right? What's your thoughts? Danny says, I agree. Danny says, I agree. Bill says Gilliam a fullback. I agree. Listen, when the games start, Bill, we can line up Reggie Gilliam wherever the hell we want to line him up. But just for making the roster purposes, and we are very light at tight end. After Dawson Knox and Jacob Hollister, it's not too much at tight end after that. Nate Becker made some plays today, but he's not going to make the team over a Reggie Gilliam. Reggie Gilliam has a way to make this roster, and that's through the tight end position. Now, once he makes the roster, we can line him up anywhere we want to line him up on game day. But Reggie Gilliam makes this roster at the tight end spot, in my opinion. Jeff Davis like it. Jeff Davis likes it. I like that you like it, Jeff. I like that you like it. Dawn says, I still say Knox should be a fullback like he was most of his college career. And Brian Dable is a smart offensive guru, right? I believe Brian Dable is going to put Dawson Knox in Reggie Gilliam type situations where he may be the lead blocker in some instances. We may use his speed, his versatility, and his tenacity to be a blocker for Motor Singletary or Zach Moss in some plays. So I definitely wouldn't eliminate that out the equation for Dawson Knox. Jeff, they can get Sweeney on the practice squad. Most definitely. Most definitely. Sweeney's in a walking booth right now. Sweeney has to prove that he can stay durable in this NFL before he warrants a spot on the active roster. But he is talented nevertheless, and because he is talented, he does deserve a practice roster spot. Bills will revert Gilliam back to the tight end. I believe so, DM3. Just to make the spot. Just when I took a look at the Buffalo Bills roster and you see the running back position and Tywan Jones there at running back and the 3 running backs I initially have making the roster, then you look at the tight ends. Zach Ertz is not coming to Buffalo, ladies and gentlemen. Zach Ertz is not coming to Buffalo. So the Buffalo Bills tight end room is rather light. So that's where Reggie Gilliam can come back into the equation, be our tight end, and make the roster. And once he makes the team, we can put him and line him up wherever the hell we want after that, right? No, I believe Sweeney's hurt. Daniel Gary. Sweeney's in a. I believe I saw him in a walking boot earlier this week. Actually. Let's move on. Excellent dialogue here, man. Excellent dialogue. We have a ton of people in the conversation. I really appreciate y'all. Y'all are tuning in to Billsology. I'm your host, A. Rich, Akeem Richens. If you don't know us by now, please get to know us. This is Built in Buffalo. I want to move on to the offensive line, right? I think the offensive line is a little easier to assess in terms of who's making the roster, in my opinion. I have 9 offensive linemen making this Buffalo Bills roster. Deion Dawkins, John Feliciano, Daryl Williams, Cody Ford, Mitch Morse, Spencer Brown, Ike Bacher, Ryan Bates, and Tommy Doyle. Now, Tommy Doyle, Ike Bacher, Ryan Bates, those are the 3 guys that I'm going with. Those are the 3 guys that I see. I'm watching the most. I want to see what Forrest Lamp has, right? I want to see what Forrest Lamp, the former guard from the Chargers, who started every game from the Chargers last season, I want to see what he has, but he's nursing a right calf injury, and we haven't seen him play. So we haven't seen him play. I'm not sure if we can give him a roster spot. Now, Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, they gave guys like Spencer Long a roster spot back in the past. Brian Winters got a roster spot back in the past. So will they give Forrest Lamp a roster spot because of his veteran presence, because of his veteran savvy and his experience as a starter? Is that enough to give Forrest Lamp a spot on the 53-man roster over a rookie like Tommy Doyle? Those are interesting questions that I'm excited to see the answers to when the Buffalo Bills get down to their roster spots. Who is going to be these depth guys along the Buffalo Bills offensive line? But right now, I have Ryan Bates, Ike Bacher, and Tommy Doyle as the final 3 guys making the cut as far as depth pieces amongst the Buffalo Bills offensive line. DM3 right now. That's spin. I'll get back to spin in a minute. DM3 says the ball doesn't need the backs to run the ball. He will use them in misdirection plays like Modus TD today. And that's an excellent comment, right? That's an excellent assessment right there. He's going to use a lot of them in misdirection plays. Brian Dable is going to do a great job manipulating some calls, manipulating the pocket, using the same play calls and same play formations, and getting different plays out of the same formations. That's what Brian Dable is going to do well with these running backs. That's what Brian Dable is going to do well, period. He's going to try to do a better job than he did last year, putting his running backs in better positions to make more plays and be successful. Excellent comment from my brother DM3. Let's move on to the defensive ends, right? I have 9 offensive linemen making the roster. I didn't go into D-line. I got it broken up into defensive ends and defensive tackles. I have 7 defensive ends making this roster for the Buffalo Bills. 7 defensive ends making this roster. I don't know if I've ever seen or heard of 7 defensive ends making any NFL roster before, but I think it's a first time for everything. And I have Jerry Hughes, Mario Addison, Carlos Boogie Basham, Efe Abada, Gregory Rousseau, Daryl Johnson, and AJ Epinessa all making this Buffalo Bills football team. I mean, why not? Why not? The Buffalo Bills defensive coaches, the Buffalo Bills defensive staff, shown over the years that they love to run a heavy rotation, right? The Buffalo Bills, we come in waves. Defensive lines play like 40 and 50% of the snaps. The Buffalo Bills defensive staff love to send guys in waves. So why not continue what the Buffalo Bills already have constructed within their staff, right? And that's sending these guys in waves. And we're not talking just defensive ends from this group. We're talking about guys that are versatile and can line up anywhere on the defensive line, right? F.A. Abada is not only a defensive end, he can get kicked inside in pass rush situations. Gregory Rousseau is another guy that is setting the edge beautifully and also can be kicked inside in pass rushing situations. Daryl Johnson is a hell of a special teams player, and he's getting to the quarterback, pressuring the quarterback from the defensive end spot. Daryl Johnson is an athletic specimen at 6'5", 255 pounds. Moves very well for a guy his size. Carlos Boogie Basham is another guy that can play outside and he could kick inside. The Buffalo Bills defensive ends are not just defensive ends. They are a collection of very good football players that can excel collectively when they're all on their games. And this is why I'm not cutting a damn defensive end off the Buffalo Bills roster, because they all give us something, right? They all add a dimension somewhere, whether it's defensive end, defensive tackle, or special teams. These Buffalo Bills, these DEs, add a dimension that we haven't seen in the past, and I'm not cutting any defensive end on the Bills roster. I know I went on a little tangent there. What's your thoughts on the Buffalo Bills DEs? I can't cut any of them. Can you? Let me get your thoughts. Hey, we must be doing good today, because Daniel Garies is now saying smash the like button. Definitely appreciate it, Daniel. Definitely appreciate it. Lone Wolf says 6 DEs. I don't have Bam. That's interesting. That's interesting, Lone Wolf. You don't have Bam. Where do you have Bam? I don't see where. I have to look into. I'm not as educated on how the practice squad protections work, right? So I have to educate myself on that after this live broadcast. But I don't see where you can put a Carlos Boogie Basham on the practice squad. I don't see that. A second round pick, I definitely see him making the team. I definitely see him on the initial 53. Jeff Davis says, can you see Hughes not making it? No, I cannot see Jerry Hughes not making the Buffalo Bills roster. I see Jerry Hughes as a guy that should be on the wall of fame for the Buffalo Bills a few years from now. But Jerry Hughes is still our best defensive end on the roster. Jerry Hughes is still our best pass rushing defensive end on the roster. I know he had only 4.5 sacks last year, but Jerry Hughes, once the light shined the brightest, and those that the brightest shined in the playoffs, Jerry Hughes came to play. Jerry Hughes was very effective. And no, I don't see Jerry Hughes getting cut. I'm not cutting Jerry Hughes. No way, no how. DM3 is on it. You can't protect 2 players per game day from the practice squad. Okay, so that's interesting. That's interesting. We'll see how the Buffalo Bills are going to use the practice squad protections, right? Moving on. Get another comment in here. Lone says player protections and when your game is over and don't start again until 4 p.m. on Tuesday. DM3 says 2 players, not 4. So these player protections and practice squad protections is definitely going to be vital, not only for the Buffalo Bills, right, but vital for a lot of teams in this NFL. But I have 7 defensive ends making this roster. Let me move on to the defensive tackles. I have 4 defensive tackles making the Buffalo Bills roster. Those 4 defensive tackles are Ed Oliver, obvious, right? Star Latuile, Justin Zimmer, and Harrison Phillips. Those are my 4 defensive tackles. Vernon Butler hasn't done anything, in my opinion, to warrant a roster spot. Vernon Butler, in my opinion, is holding on to the fact that he was drafted by the Carolina Panthers during the time Brandon Beane and company was with the Carolina Panthers. That is the only reason why I think Vernon Butler is on this football team today. I don't think he's a better player than Harrison Phillips. I don't think he's a better player than Justin Zimmer. I think those guys give more effort, give more overall hustle and effort than Vernon Butler, and I have those guys making the team over him. Now, again, Harrison Phillips went down with a knee injury. We know Harrison Phillips tore his ACL last year. I don't know what knee he went down with the injury with this evening, but we're going to look into the severity of that as well, and that may play a factor into decisions being made on cut day. But right now, I have Harrison Phillips, Justin Zimmer, Star Latuile, and Ed Oliver as the 4 defensive tackles making this roster. And with the defensive ends that we have showing that versatility, F.A. Abada with the ability to play defensive tackle, Gregory Rousseau with the ability to play defensive tackle, Carlos Boogie Basham with the ability to play defensive tackle. We just have a plethora of guys that have a ton of versatility and can be a headache to opposing offenses. And that is something I'm excited to see from this defensive front. 4 DTs making the 53-man roster. I want to get some thoughts on that. Daniel Garis definitely agrees. Star, Oliver, Phillips, Zimmer. Vernon's our biggest DT, but I agree. He is the biggest. He is the biggest. And when you're thinking about, especially the one technique, right? When you're thinking about the one technique, you want a big body like Vernon Butler in there to command and take on double teams, to be stout at the point of attack, so our linebackers can be freed up to make plays. So a 3-tech defensive tackle could be freed up to make plays. But being big is just not good enough. And I think Justin Zimmer and Harrison Phillips do a good job, especially Harrison Phillips. If he's healthy, I think he could hold up to the point of attack. I think he showed that in today's game. Gregory Rousseau was able to expose his man because of the work Harrison Phillips provided next to him. So I think those 4 defensive tackles should be our guys, and I think we'll be fine with our defensive line rotation with these 11 guys, in my opinion, that should make the team. I want to move on to the linebacker position. Now, I have 5 linebackers making the team. Usually you would have you probably would have 6 linebackers, but because I'm carrying an extra defensive end, I have to sacrifice somewhere, right? So I have 5 linebackers making the team. Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano, Tyler Medikevich, Andre Smith, and A.J. Klein. I have those 5 linebackers making the team. I like Dobson, but I'm just not sure if Dobson is going to make this team. Now, A.J. Klein, in my opinion, is expendable. In my opinion, A.J. Klein can definitely be expendable. I would have to look at the dead money, how much dead money would take would the Bills take if we was to cut a player like A.J. Klein and replace him for Dobson. But right now, that's a tough cut. I like Tyrell Dobson's ability, his athletic ability, and his sideline-to-sideline presence, but I have to make a sacrifice, and he's that sacrifice right now. Andre Smith, I don't know where he came from. I don't know where this guy Andre Smith came from. I know he was always a solid special teams contributor, but what he's doing on defense He had the athletic interception last week, but he showed great awareness and coverage. Dropped back. He hooked the curl, made a leaping interception, showing soft hands. Coming back this week, showing a physical presence and straight demolishing a Justin Fields. Straight demolishing Justin Fields. Andre Smith is showing athletic ability, coverage ability on the defensive side of the ball, and he is, in my opinion, a damn near lock to make this roster. Andre Smith, a hell of a progression this offseason. I don't know who he practiced with. I don't know who the hell he worked out with this offseason, but we're seeing a newfound player coming from the linebacker position, and that's Andre Smith. And I have these 5 linebackers making this team. What are y'all thoughts? Smith played at Carolina. Don has 4 making the roster. Edmonds, Milano, Klein, and Medikevich. I'm not mad at that. I mean, 4 is a little light. It is a little light. It'll be interesting to see what Dawn has in the back end with her secondary. How much safeties you have making the roster, how much corners you have making the roster. Because linebacker, 4 is a little light, but at the end of the day, it's a passing league, right? It is a passing league at the end of the day, and you have to have guys that can cover. So I'm not mad at the assessment at all. I have 1 more than you. I have 5 linebackers making the Buffalo Bills roster. Daniel Gary says 5 as well. Lone Wolf says that's pretty gutsy. That is gutsy. That is pretty gutsy. Spin agrees. And again, Terrell Adams. I like what I saw from him as well. Right? Terrell Adams, Tyrell Dobson. I'm not sure if any of those guys will make the practice squad. I'm not sure if any of those guys would make it to the Buffalo Bills practice squad. And again, this is where it's going to get interesting with AJ Klein, because I think AJ Klein is replaceable. I think Tyrell Adams or Tyrell Dobson can easily place an AJ Klein on this Buffalo Bills roster. It is going to be interesting to see when the decisions are made, right? Definitely a lot of interesting decisions. The Buffalo Bills have a lot of good football players, and this is why I alluded to earlier in the segment, earlier in the show. Brandon Beane should get on these phones and try to flip some of these players into late round draft picks. We have a lot of good football players that's not going to be playing on this roster come week 1. So why not flip them into some draft picks? I apologize for the delay. If I have a short delay, it's starting to rain over here. Hurricane Henry is on the horizon, so I apologize if my Wi-Fi starts to act up a little bit. Let me get this moving along then. I have an excellent crowd today, man. Smash that like button. I have close to 100 people in here. Smash that like button, man. Definitely smash that like button. Moving on, I want to talk about the cornerback position, right? The cornerback position is another interesting position for the Buffalo Bills. Got my charger on here. Gotta make sure I got my charger working. I have 5 cornerbacks making the Buffalo Bills roster. And the 5 cornerbacks I have is Trey White, Levi Wallace, Dane Jackson, Teron Johnson, and Cyron Neal. Those are the 5 cornerbacks I have making the Buffalo Bills roster right now. But if I'm Brandon Beane, if I'm Sean McDermott, if I'm that organization and that coaching staff, I'm getting together and I'm having discussions about trying to upgrade this position when it's waiver time, right? Right before the season starts, right before week 1, and the NFL and players, teams are making their cuts, getting down to their final 53-man roster. I'm scrolling around the NFL looking for upgrades, looking for potential upgrades at the cornerback position, because This is the one position that I have some concerns with. Dane Jackson has not looked great, right? Levi Wallace is Levi Wallace. I think we all know Levi Wallace is Levi Wallace. Levi Wallace is a solid but not spectacular player, right? Dane Jackson has shown his struggles, has shown his bumps, right? We like his tenacity, we like his physicality, but we have to call a spade a spade. There's a reason why he was a 7th round pick. He's a 7th round pick. He's not particularly fast, runs a 4.65 40, and he struggled a little bit these two preseason games, right? He got hurt earlier today. I believe he went down with a stinger. A stinger shouldn't be too serious, but if I'm the Buffalo Bills staff and I'm looking at Trey White, Levi Wallace, Tyron Neal, Tyron Johnson, and Dane Jackson, this is one position group that I'm going to try to upgrade, right? How y'all feel about the Buffalo Bills corners? I feel that we should try to look for an upgrade somewhere here. Somewhere we got to, where Jacksonville Jaguars, I believe their cornerback is up for grabs. I believe they're trying to shop him around. The Buffalo Bills should be looking for an upgrade at the cornerback position. I don't care if it's outside corner or slot corner, right? The Buffalo Bills should be trying to look for an upgrade here. But as of right now, I have the 5 cornerbacks, and those 5 cornerbacks, I'm going to repeat once again, is Trey White, Levi Wallace, Dane Jackson, Tyron Neal, and Tyron Johnson. I want to get y'all thoughts. I know a lot of people like McLeod. I know a lot of people's on the McLeod train, Nick McLeod. I think he's going to work his way onto the practice squad. But I just feel in my heart of hearts that we need to add another guy, another veteran guy, another guy that knows how to play the cornerback position. I think it's very important for the Buffalo Bills to do that because we're one injury away, God forbid. We're one injury away from having some concerns at the cornerback position as it is, as we're currently constructed. So Buffalo Bills, Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, I have 5 cornerbacks making the roster, but I definitely think this is a position that not only needs an upgrade, but needed an upgrade for the last 2 or 3 seasons now. I think the Buffalo Bills staff, their organization, we're being a bunch of tourists right now. We're being really stubborn in how we're handling this number 2 cornerback position, and I think it's something that still needs to be addressed, and I think we should try to address it before the first game of the season against the Pittsburgh Steelers. What are your thoughts? Dawn says Trey White, Wild Goose, Wallace Johnson. I understand he's the 6th round pick, but I haven't been impressed with Wild Goose. Wild Goose is a guy that still needs development. He still needs time to work on his game. He's a practice squad candidate. He is not a guy that's ready to come in and compete for a rotational spot in the Buffalo Bills cornerback room. And I think we have some minor concerns within our cornerbacks that needs to be upgraded. D-Boy, what's good, D-Boy? So do you think Isaiah or Marquez will be the primary return man? That's an excellent question, D-Boy. First thing we got to figure out is the severity of Marquez Stevenson's injury, right? How bad did he hurt that foot or ankle? If it's not serious, do I think he has a chance? Yes. I think he has a legitimate chance to be at least our return man for the Buffalo Bills. Sean McDermott, he's shown that he has no problem with adding niche players to the roster, right? Tywan Jones is a gunner, right? Tyler Medikevich was paid a pretty good salary to be a special teams contributor. Sean McDermott hasn't shied away from adding players that can only play special teams, but doesn't have any problem adding them to the roster if he can get something out of him. So Marquez Stevenson is playing well, man. He's showing that he can indeed impact the game from the special teams position. So I still think Isaiah McKenzie still has that leg up right now. But Marquez Stevenson is a guy that I do think they're talking about when they're looking film amongst each other, the coaching staff. I do think Marquez Stevenson is a guy that they're mentioning in their film meetings. So excellent question. Let me take one more question, and then I will move on to the safeties. Lone, with any luck, there will be a vet cornerback available after cutdowns, and that's what I'm hoping for, right? That's what I'm hoping for, and I'm hoping we can add that vet to the Buffalo Bills roster and make our cornerbacks a more formidable, stronger unit. Moving on to the safeties. I have 5 safeties making this roster, right? Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer are the obvious. Jaquan Johnson is the third. And 4 and 5 is Damar Hamlin and Josh Thomas, man. Damar Hamlin is showing that he is a player. Damar Hamlin might be a better safety than Jaquan Johnson. Damar Hamlin has a chance, has an opportunity to really make an impact for this Buffalo Bills team. He looks like he understands the game of football. He looks like he understands where he's supposed to be and when he's supposed to be there. And that is very impressive coming from a 6th-round pick in Damar Hamlin. And because of that, I have him making this roster. And Josh Thomas, he's just been flashing, right? Josh Thomas has been sacrificing his body, putting his body in harm's way, making plays, whether that's the run game, whether that's the passing game. Josh Thomas is he's just popping out on the TV screen. And because he's popping out on the TV screen, I have him making the team. So 5 safeties along with 5 cornerbacks making the roster. Of course, these things are subject to change because I do feel the Buffalo Bills can use an upgrade at that cornerback position. So do these things could be subject to change? Most definitely. But for right now, the initial roster after week 2 of the preseason, 5 cornerbacks, 5 safeties. What's y'all thoughts? Hey, Buffalo fans 716, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, best safety duo in the NFL. How could I argue? How could I argue that, right? Even if it's a little biased. There's other good safety tandems out there, but I really think Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde is amongst the best in the league. Hopefully we get more impactful plays, impact plays, game-changing, game-turning plays from our safeties this year, and they will definitely solidify themselves as the best safety tandem in this NFL. Cindy says, I agree with the upgrade. Definitely think we need an upgrade there at the cornerback position. Timothy, I haven't heard anything about creating a room via trades. I think we're watching commercials advertising talent for a trade bait this week. I feel a couple of these vets are going this week via trade. Timothy, I think so too. I think it's definitely possible, right? We have some guys we want to put out there and showcase their talent. So maybe we can flip that player into a roster pick, So we definitely going to see what happens there. I think the specialists, I'm not going to go too heavy on that, but Reed Ferguson, Tyler Bass. In my opinion, Tyler Bass is going to be an all-pro this season. Tyler Bass is an all-pro kicker in the waiting, in my opinion. Tyler Bass, I'm comfortable and confident in Tyler Bass kicking a game-winning field goal from 60. I have that much confidence in our second-year kicker, Tyler Bass, and I believe he's in for an all-pro season this season. Matt Hack, Matt Hack is no Corey Bojorquez. I'm starting to realize he's our punter. He's our guy this year. That Matt Hack is no Corey Bojorquez. And hopefully he works out the kinks in time for the season, and he does have a successful season. But I was thinking about Corey Bojorquez watching Matt Hack punt the football today. So minor concern with my punter, but again, it's preseason and he did make some decent kicks, but Corey Bojorquez made them booming kicks, and I'm not sure if Matt Hack have the leg to make those booming kicks that we saw Corey Bojorquez used to make during his time with the Buffalo Bills. Jeff Davis with an excellent point, because that was one of his more impressive kicks, right? That directional kick. He looks like he does an excellent job, Matt Hack, pinning opponents on that boundary, on that sideline. So yes, excellent comment right there from one of our knowledgeable Buffalo Bills fans, and Jeff Davis. He's more of a directional kicker. Excellent comment there. DM3, we aren't going to punt anyways. I love it. I love it. We shouldn't punt much, right? But when we do, we hope we could get off a good one. I didn't like that 29-yard punt, that 29-yard punt. I know Corey Bojorquez had a habit of doing that as well, but that is something that we don't want to see. Whenever you do punt the ball, even if it's seldom, even if you're seldomly punting the ball, when you do punt it, we need more than 29 yards. Need more than 29 yards. Any more comments that I need to take before we get out of here? I think this was a very good show, right? I think this was a very entertaining show. I got a bunch of dialogue from our Buffalo Bills fans, and it's excellent to get excellent conversation about what we see, what we process today, right? Preseason game, but it was an exciting thing to see your team dominate in the fashion that we dominated, even if it's in the preseason, right? I watched the Pittsburgh Steelers today. Najee Harris looked good. They have a plethora of receivers. Week 1 should be a fascinating matchup, a great test for our Buffalo Bills. The Pittsburgh Steelers added a Najee Harris. They added a running back to complete and round their offense, and it's going to be a great test come week 1. But today, the Buffalo Bills team, we didn't have our full roster on display, and we put together a physically dominating performance. And it was great to see, man. Very good to see. Tune in later this week, man. The Buffalo Bills and Buffalo team is continuously growing. We are adding amazing talent to the family, and be on the lookout for some guys that we have coming into the fold. Be on the lookout for other sports content that we have coming into the fold. Bills and Buffalo is cooking up a lot of things behind the scenes, and we hope that you stay tuned and remain in tune to see what we have cooking up, man. This has been an excellent show. Tune in to the Red Zone Report coming to later this week. Tune in to halftime adjustments coming into later this week. And tune in to all the great content that the Bills and Buffalo family will be providing throughout the Buffalo Bills season, man. I really appreciate everybody tuned in and rocked out with me today on Billsology. And next week, 9:30, we'll be on to discuss week 3, and we probably will break down the final roster for our Buffalo Bills. So once again, this is Billsology. I'm your host, Hakeem Richards. If you don't know us by now, please get to know us. This has been a Bills in Buffalo broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time.